Is this thing on? Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. And welcome to Sunday's edition of the dceu Daily. I'm your host with the most, Mick. So welcome to Sunday's edition of the dceu Daily. On today's show, we're talking about my theory of what I think is WB's huge plans for a big future of Superman in live action. Now, this will take a kind of a double-edged sword conversation because I want to talk about their plans for Superman on the second part of the show. And on the first part of the show, I want to talk about what's actually going on with Sasha Calle and Superman in the Flash movie. So all week we've been hearing leaks from the Flash movie test screenings that Sasha Calle's Supergirl will in fact replace Henry Cavill's Superman. Maybe that's kind of true, but maybe in a more interesting way. We've heard rumours, no fuck it, let's say it's true, that in the Flash movie, they actually have Barry Allen treading in the Man of Steel film. But what if it's not the Man of Steel film? What if it's Sasha Calle's version of Man of Steel? So just imagine for a minute, maybe in the Flashpoint universe, after Barry goes back to save his mum, or when he fixes Flashpoint and goes back to a brand new version of Earth 1 and has been affected by Flashpoint, and he's all new, right? The universe has been rebooted or whatever happens, right? So either there's, this is my theory, that there's a Girl of Steel version of Man of Steel with Sasha Calle in it. Either in Earth 1 or in the Flashpoint universe, right? So what if they're not actually treading in Man of Steel? But actually, it's a film that's very similar. Michael Shannon is Zod. Faora is in it, played by the same actress. All the players and actors and characters we saw in Man of Steel are actually in Sasha Calle's Supergirl's version of this Girl of Steel. We're calling it Girl of Steel to kind of avoid confusion. So, in fact, Andy Muschietti and Warner Brothers are not messing with Man of Steel. Man of Steel still stands, right? But in the new version of the DCEU, in fact, there was also a Girl of Steel movie. And in this movie, Supergirl didn't break Zod's neck. And in this movie, on Krypton, Zod, General Zod, killed Kal-El, aka Superman, as a baby. And that's why on this Earth now, there is in fact no Superman. I think this is a viable theory, and I think this is exactly what's going on. Because no one goes into somebody's movie and destroys it. Oh, hang on a minute, they did it with Justice League. Exactly. And that's why they will not do it again. They've learned their lesson. Don't mess around with other people's movies. So we've all been thinking all this time that they're going to mess with Man of Steel, they're going to change the storyline. They wouldn't do that. It would be utterly toxic. Zack Snyder would have needed to sign off on this because he's a producer on every DCEU film. He directed Man of Steel. It's not just as simple as saying, well, Superman doesn't belong to Zack Snyder. When you've made a movie, you have certain rights. And unless you understand how the industry works, you wouldn't understand that. That's why Zack and Deb are producers on DC films that they have nothing to do with. And that's how it works. So I don't think we're stepping in to Man of Steel. No, I don't think that's it. I think we're stepping into a Girl of Steel movie. Now, what Earth this is in, I have no idea. Whether it's in the Flashpoint universe. You see, I do have another theory as well, that we will see different versions on different Earths of Sasha Calle's Supergirl. That could be interesting as well. She could be playing multiple versions of this Supergirl character, which I think is really exciting. It could be that, or it could be when Barry finishes from Flashpoint and goes back to the brand new Earth 1, that this is what happens. You know, now there's a Girl of Steel, right? And she was involved in the events of Man of Steel, right? You get it? That's why I'm calling it Girl of Steel. So, but in her movie, baby Kal-El was murdered by Zod, and she didn't kill Zod. She pushed him, like everyone else, into the phantom zone. So they're around to live another day. So let's, for argument's sake, say this is the brand new DCEU, where instead of a Man of Steel movie, there was a Girl of Steel movie, and all these events took place. Now, don't forget what we've been told, that nothing will be forgotten and everything will be remembered. Don't forget that also, because everything's going to be remembered and nothing's going to be forgotten, that Zack Snyder's Snyderverse has now got its own pocket universe, according to leaks. This is very good because this gives Zack an opportunity via a Final Crisis movie, a Final Crisis on Infinite Earths movie, to actually wrap up his storyline. Or he could just do his 2 Justice League movies, but they've left that situation open for him, which is, again, really, really good. So because nothing's being forgotten and everything will be remembered, people will remember everything that's occurred, that there is a version of Man of Steel out there, but on another Earth. And as I've said earlier, this could be a way to kind of do a Final Crisis story. This could be what they're setting up. So that's what I think. That in fact, they're not touching the Man of Steel movie at all. They're showing us a version of Man of Steel, but instead of with Henry Cavill and Superman, it's with Sasha Calais, Supergirl. This is definitely what I think they're doing. By the way, I have no information. This is a theory-based video. It's always been very, very interesting to me how people have made the accusation that Superman and Lois is an HBO Max show rather than a CW show. It's financed by HBO Max, that's the theory, but it's just being aired on the CW. Why are people making this accusation? Because the VFX, the budget, is huge for that show. The production qualities are actually amazing, which makes me start to wonder, was Tyler Hoechlin always being groomed to be the next DCEU Superman from his casting, and even back from when he first was introduced into Arrowverse in Supergirl Season 2, Episode 1. Now, in that episode, we see a really great version of Superman. What I love from Tyler in that episode is he's Superman. He's upstanding, he's very polite, he's totally Superman. People argue that he's not a really tall actor and shouldn't play Superman, but he does feel like Superman in his performances in the Arrowverse and also in Superman and Lois. So what if the plan was always to be that Tyler is actually going to be our brand new DCEU Superman? That would mean that Henry Cavill Superman would actually be in the Snyderverse pocket universe. He can just play Superman over there. That could be a thing. And by the end of the movie, Batfleck is also in that pocket universe. Now, it would seem that Ezra's Barry Allen will be in the central DCEU, as will Gal Gadot, as will Jason Momoa's Aquaman, because we want to keep them. So I don't understand how that's going to work, but what they could say is that Superman and Batman are in that pocket universe, but what happened is when the multiverse was rebooted, some of them were divided onto different Earths, and that's the explanation for Gal, Jason, and Ezra being in Earth 1 instead of Zack's pocket universe. So it could work this way. This could be a really good way of doing this and allowing Zack to restore the Snyderverse, which would make Tyler Hoechlin the main Superman in Earth 1 of the DCEU. Because there's no question about it, Tyler Hoechlin is probably one of the most popular versions of Superman we've seen in a long time. Now, lots of people love Henry Cavill as Superman. I love Henry Cavill as Superman. But there is an issue. He has been, I don't want to say tainted, because I do love his version of Superman and I love what Zack's done with the DCEU, but maybe tainted, and maybe WB Pictures feel it would be best if he just sticks to the Snyderverse. And I agree, he is a Snyderverse Superman, right? He was in Man of Steel, BVS, the Snyder Cut. Now, I know he was in Justice League, but forget that. Basically, he's literally only been in 3 movies. And I know they did that whole cameo in Shazam, but Henry had nothing to do with that movie. He's only ever appeared in the Snyderverse. So it would make sense for Henry Cavill's Superman to remain in the Snyderverse. Because, listen, I've been to test screenings, and most of them don't show you the entire movie. Now, what's interesting about the rumours about these flash test screenings and these leaks is that apparently there's music on these films, there's proper VFX, and they're quite well edited movies, and there's a lot of stuff. Even, in fact, at the end, a kind of post-credit scene of Batfleck warning Barry somehow being able to communicate from the Pocket Universe and warn him of a final crisis or a crisis on Infinite Earths, which I believe involves Darkseid, which I said the other day as well. I believe it involves Darkseid because this allows Zack to finish off his arc and maybe even direct a Final Crisis movie. So, as I'm saying, I don't ever believe anyone would want a universe without Superman, and this makes sense because Superman and Lois is killing it. They're literally, after Flashpoint, making everything you've ever fucking seen in DC live action canon. And I mean, if Jim Carrey's going to retire, the last thing I would love him to do is to cameo as his Riddler from Batman Forever in the Flash movie. Wouldn't that be so cool? I think so. But anyway, let's go back to the main point. So I actually believe that Tyler Hoechlin will be the DCEU's main Superman after Flashpoint. I think this is the plan. I think this has been the plan all along. So maybe you should be taking more notice of Superman and Lois than you are. Because whatever happens, he will be in that Flash movie. Lots of people from Arrowverse will be, and every kind of anyone who's been in DC live action before. In fact, yesterday I heard a little rumor that I didn't want to repeat to you all for one reason. I wasn't sure if this was an April Fool's report. So I will tell you that apparently there's a sequence of a young Linda Carter as Wonder Woman, Christopher Reeve as Superman, and Michael Keaton as Batman, as a holy trinity. Yes, they are part of their own Justice League in this Earth, or whatever's going on in this sequence in the Flash movie. This is why someone even said on Twitter, the Flash movie is insane. So there could be this kind of thing. Now, of course, this would be very satisfying. Obviously, movies need to be more than cameos, Easter eggs, and references. This movie will definitely be that. Of course, it's been delayed. We don't know what Discovery are thinking. But this makes more sense to me, especially my Sasha Calle Girl of Steel theory. Because why, I can understand if they were going to touch every DCEU movie. Now, there's another rumor when Barry's going through the Speed Force, he gets to there's flashes of the other DCEU movies and the other DCEU characters and actors, and it's kind of a celebration of everything that we've seen thus far, which would be really cool. So that's what you see of the DCEU as you're running through. But of course, as he gets to his mother and he saves her, all that is erased because he's in Flashpoint now and everything's different. Very interesting. But instead of actually touching Man of Steel, they're actually touching Sasha Calle's Supergirl, Girl of Steel movie. Not Man of Steel, but it still has all the same players as Man of Steel. Now, this is more inventive. This is more interesting because, as I say, I always thought it was a bit weird because at first the rumor was they were going to touch all the movies. Barry was going to tread in all the movies. But we've only heard about Man of Steel. And why would it just be Man of Steel? I know it's the first movie, and this led people to think, Henry Cavill's safe because they're only interested in that movie. But what if they're not touching that movie at all? What if they're actually using that film to say, yeah, Henry Cavill has his own Man of Steel movie. That hasn't been deleted, and this is Sasha Calle's Supergirl version of that movie. And in this version, as I said earlier, and I hate to repeat myself just to make my point stick, that in this version, Zod's neck isn't broken by Supergirl. She shoves him in the Phantom Zone, and Zod murders baby Kal-El at the beginning of her version of Man of Steel, which we're calling Girl of Steel. For me, this makes so much more sense, and I'd love your reactions to it. It's less toxic. I think people won't be as, look, there's so many voices on the internet today. Everyone's got an opinion. I'm sure people will still be kind of upset about this. I'd love your take on my theory. Now, on Tyler Hoechlin, it makes perfect sense that he would at least cameo in this movie. But it makes even more sense that he could be the next DCEU Superman, because everything is going to be canon in this movie. Now, after Final Crisis, if they do kind of destroy the multiverse, and it's just kind of a bit like in Arrowverse where they wrongly thought there's only one Earth now and the rest of the multiverse was destroyed. That's not the case. They think that, but it's not true. So obviously they're building up to a Final Crisis or a Crisis on Infinite Earths, right? If Discovery allow them to do this. But it's a pretty exciting plan. And this is where my theory comes in, that until that happens and we're reunited with Snyder's DCEU Justice League, that the new setup of the DCEU could be that Tyler Hoechlin is now Superman. Because everything's canon, right? So it would make sense if in Earth 1 now Sasha Calle is Supergirl and there's no Henry Cavill Superman. It doesn't mean there's no Superman whatsoever. So that she actually had her own version of Man of Steel. That kind of makes sense to me. So it'd be very interesting if we ever see this film, if that's actually the case. I think that it is. And that's kind of exciting. Nobody wants Supergirl to replace Superman. And let me tell you who this would hurt the most. Sasha Calle's Supergirl. Sasha Calle is a great kid. She looks amazing on the set pictures and on location, in the costume. A lot of people are kind of worshipping her already. I don't want her to get hate because she's apparently replacing Superman. So this doesn't help her. This doesn't make her Supergirl better. It just means people, like we do today, feel we have to take a side. Do we say, yeah, Supergirl can replace Superman? I'm not going to do that, but I'm not going to hate on Sasha either. So, difficult situation. So I think it would be better in the Flash movie if we see a version of Man of Steel, but with Sasha Calle's Supergirl being the lead character rather than Superman. There's lots of different things you could do with that. You could say that Superman and Supergirl were in this movie together, or that actually in this version, there's no Henry Cavill Superman. It's Sasha Calle's Supergirl, but with all the same actors who were in Man of Steel. This is why they're using Zod. This is why they're using Fiora. So it's all the same setup. I've seen pictures of things that look very similar to Man of Steel in the Flash movie. These are pictures that I will never leak. I don't want to get into trouble. But I've seen them from the test screenings. But it looks very familiar to Man of Steel, but it looks a little bit different. Do you know what I mean? So I think this is actually what they're doing. And I think if they do this, and they do make Tyler Hoechlin the main Superman for now, and Henry's Superman is in Snyder's Pocket Universe, I actually think this makes more sense. Now, and I might have said this earlier, I forgot. My mind's Swiss cheese, right? I had a lot to drink last night, bit of a hangover. Those Keo beers are strong, right? Don't have them on an empty stomach. But, you know, with test screenings, you don't see the whole movie. I've probably already said that, but I'll say it again. You know, they're not going to show you the entire movie. That will be dumb. I've never seen an entire movie when I've gone to a test screening. Now, the closest I've got to an entire movie before is The Batman. That was pretty much the movie they showed, which was nuts, right? But there were other test screenings of 4-hour cuts. I, unfortunately, didn't get to see them. So, with this movie, there's a lot of cameos. There's a lot of surprises. They're changing a lot of things. So, clearly, they're not going to allow you to see everything. But they've allowed you to see whatever you've seen is just the tip of the iceberg. So then we have to ask the question if Tyler Hoechlin Superman's in this and he's going to become the main DCEU Superman. And we know there's at least stock footage of Henry Cavill. Do we ever see him at the beginning of the movie? And what have test audiences seen of the beginning of the Flash movie? Did they see much from the beginning of the movie? Were they just led into the Flashpoint bit? What did they see from this film? Because basically studios are allowed to cut a lot of the movie out and show you what they want to show you. It could be a 90-minute movie. It could even be an hour movie. It could be a 2-hour movie. Because I think the Flash movie, in its entirety before it's cut, is at least 3 hours. I think we may get a near 3-hour Flash movie. I mean, hearing that Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is only 2 hours, if that was a DC movie, everyone would explode. Now, I don't think a length of a movie is an issue, but modern-day audiences and cinephiles like really long superhero movies. I like long movies, but it doesn't mean because a movie's short, it's going to be crap. But it is strange for a big tentpole MCU movie to be so short. So I am curious about that, getting back to the DCEU. Because with me, everyone, I don't just react to information. I try and make sense of it. And I think my theory I've given you today kind of makes a lot of sense to me, that we're not touching Man of Steel, we're touching Girl of Steel, Sasha Calle's version of Man of Steel. And that Tyler Hoechlin has been the plan all along to be the central Superman. So clearly, look, Zack Snyder said it best when he was building up to the marketing of the Snyder Cut, that his 3 films are nothing to do with the other films, right? Now, personally, I think they've got to be canon to that Suicide Squad movie we saw and to the Wonder Woman movie, but from Justice League, they're no longer canon. But as far as he's concerned, he's gone deeper than that. He says that his 3 movies are in another universe, in another Elseworld, and nothing to do with anything else, right? Which means they're going to be in a pocket universe in this Flash movie that will be set up, and everything else will be canon in a new DCEU Earth 1. But they've still got to make sense of that. They've got to make, basically nothing's forgotten, everything's remembered. But what happens to the rest of the DCEU movies? How do you make sense of that? Well, it's obvious they're all part of the same universe, but the truth of the matter is that all those movies right now are canon to the Snyderverse in a way, apart from Justice League, which is just a movie no one really wants to accept as anything. It's just a movie out there on its own. It's a bit like Masters of the Universe movie. It's not canon to the animation, is it? It's just there out there. Nobody gives a fuck about it, unless you're some kind of nut job, right, who wants that to be canon instead of the Snyderverse. So right now, it's a bit weird. So the Flash movie has got this huge thing to do where it's making everything you've ever seen in live action canon. But it's also got to make sense of the Snyderverse and put it somewhere else. So Zack, if he wants to pick it up one day, can. And that's a lot of fun. And then we've got this more brighter, centralized universe that families can sit there and watch together. And I think this is what's being planned. Now, whether Tyler Hoechlin's going to be the new DCEU Superman or not, they clearly have a very ambitious plan for a Final Crisis story arc. So it's interesting. So listen, we have this Discovery merger on April the 11th. And for the next 6 minutes, on the final part of today's DCEU Daily, let's explain it for you. Because one of the biggest questions I ever get is, I don't get it, Mick. What's going on? So, this is how it works. Officially, and then I'll break the reality down. So officially, Discovery are merging with AT&T. So when this happens, AT&T will go back to being a tech giant, a cable and wireless company. They will focus on their cable and wireless and will have nothing to do with the everyday running of the studio and the entertainment side. The name of the company will change from Warner Media to Warner Brothers Discovery. So then you're saying, Mick, we don't understand, because a merger is like a share, isn't it? So why are they taking the name? Why Discovery getting the name? And why are they running the company? And there's something else you need to know as well. If you don't know, AT&T will still have the majority of shares in Warner Brothers Discovery, which was what it is now, Warner Media. So listen, a few years back, Sky wanted to buy out Manchester United and own it. And the Monopolies and Mergers Commissions in government said, no, you're not allowed. It's too big. It would give you too big an advantage in business. Now, if Sky was smarter, like Discovery and AT&T were, they would have said, well, it's a merger. Then they would have got away with it. My theory is, once Discovery come in, slowly but surely, they will eat away at those AT&T shares, buy them out, And basically, Discovery will own Warner Brothers, Warner everything in its entirety, and they will take their time in doing this. Basically, it's an underhanded way in business to buy out a company. This is what's happening here. So Discovery from the 11th will pretty much run and own everything Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers Discovery. They're taking over the name. Their CEO at Discovery, David Zaslav, will also be the CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery. It's a takeover, everyone. No question about that. So what will happen on April 11th when this is official? Well, you will hear an announcement through a press release from Wall Street saying, today, basically, it's Warner Brothers Discovery. It's no longer Warner Media. David Zaslav will have a little press release saying, we're really proud and happy that this merger has taken place with our new partners, AT&T, and we're really excited for a bright and exciting future at Warner Brothers Discovery. That's all you're going to hear. Do not expect to hear restore. The Snyderverse is being restored, and this one's been sacked, and that one's been sacked. You're not going to hear anything. What will happen in the next few months, if there are any changes, they will come in fits and starts. So clearly, someone like Jason Kilar, who is the CEO of Warner Media, will have to be displaced because obviously David Zaslav is taking that position, but at Warner Brothers Discovery. It's the same job. So either Zaslav and Kilar will share this job, or Kilar will get another job, or Kilar will be gone. The reason I think Kilar will be gone is because Jason Kilar is not very popular with Christopher Nolan because it was his name on the Day and Date incentive. So, and he was the one that Chris named when he had that big rant in big interviews at THR and Variety and Deadline. So I think the only way we get Christopher Nolan back, regrettably, is if Jason Kilar's gone, because I like Jason. I've spoken to Jason. He probably doesn't remember me, but I've spoken to Jason before. Very polite guy, does a lot of good. You know, he's always doing tours around Warner Brothers and showing pictures. He's proud of his job. And I think in a lot of ways, he's done a good job, but not the job he needed to do. But unfortunately, in life, people are sacrificed, and at least he gets to still be alive with this sacrifice. So it's a bit sad, but Nolan won't come back. So that is your explanation of what's going on. Discovery will own Warner Brothers, and it will be called Warner Brothers Discovery. Now, what's going to happen beyond that, as I say, is going to be long. There's longevity to this, and you're going to have to be patient. So once the Jason Kilar situation is sorted out, we find out what happens to him, then again, you don't expect much to hear much from WB Pictures, but there will be meetings. And what normally happens in a takeover, the CEO of the new company will assess everything that the old company were doing. So they will want to know about everything, all their projects, everything they've green-lighted, and they will make decisions on these movies. So they will want to see the Flash movie. They will want to see Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, even the rough cut. They will want to see Shazam, Fury of the Gods. They will want to talk to J.J. Abrams about his plans for DC, about the Superman of Color, the Val Zod suit, all these plans. Then they'll either say, that's fine, no problem. Oh, hang on a minute, this ain't happening. This is fucking ridiculous. We're not doing this. So that's what will happen. Now, WB Pictures will hope that none of them get fired, that none of their plans are kind of canned. They're praying for that. They're hoping that they can go ahead with this multiverse strategy. But when you invest so much money into a company, it is absolutely right to assess all these situations. It doesn't necessarily mean that anything's going to be cancelled, but the potential is that they can put their thumbs down or thumbs up to anything they want. So this is what's going on. So I hope I've explained to you what's actually going on here. It's an uncertain future if you're a huge DC fan like I am. But what I've explained to you today with my theories about what I think is happening with the multiverse strategy, the Flash movie, with the Guild of Steel situation, maybe Tyler Hoechlin becoming the new DCEU Superman, I still think there's some excitement for things that are happening. I still think it's an exciting future. especially if Henry is stuck in the pocket universe. Not in reality, because he couldn't make his other movies, of course, but you know what I mean. And Batfleck's stuck in the Snyderverse, and we can restore the Snyderverse, and maybe there can be a compromise between WB, Snyder, and of course Zaslav and Discovery. We hope this can happen, but as I've said many times, that things do have to change at Warner Brothers. We do need a DC Studios run by someone like Bruce Timm, who has done an amazing job with the DCEU. The DC animated universe is fantastic. It's got standalones, it's got connected tissue animated movies. It's amazing. We really need to change, and we need to be better. And hopefully with Discovery and Zaslav, we will be. This has been the DCEU Daily with me, Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss this perfection. And I'll see you again later. Until we see each other again. Goodbye. Au revoir. Auf Wiedersehen. See you later.